We continue looking at where America stands now with a look at our eating habits. Joining us to talk about how things have changed dramatically, Katherine Brooking. She is a nutritionist and also contributor to Cooking Light magazine. Good morning, Katherine.
Good morning.
It's interesting to see where America stands on food. A long-standing tradition is eating together as a family, and I would think that over the years it has diminished dramatically. But if we look at the first statistic, it's actually higher than I thought, right? I think 74% of families are eating together most of the time. Not ideal, but it's certainly higher than I expected.
Yeah, and this is fascinating because, and the good news here is that our eating habits are set so early in life that it's so important to have that time as a family to set healthy eating patterns and also just to catch up on the events of the day.
So important. And some people do watch TV though while they're sitting at the family dinner table. We asked that question and found that the TV is always on in 33% of American families. That, I would say, is actually lower than I expected.
It is lower than I expected too, but you know, a third of people eating in front of the TV, still not so good.
Not good.
And not just for reasons of being disconnected from each other, but it also disconnects you from the food. And they've done studies to show that when we're not tuned into what we're eating and we're tuned into the TV, it's, you know, we don't register food as much. We don't have as much satiety.
Exactly.
So tune into each other.
Probably we eat more because we're distracted and we just keep eating and eating
Exactly.
and eating.
Mindless eating, we call it.
Mindless eating. Another trend that is not good is portion sizes. They have grown dramatically. This is so depressing to me, how portion sizes have grown.
Yes.
You have an example here.
So here's an example of a typical plate today, which is, this is about a 12-inch plate.
Like Dave said, the plate is actually bigger.
Yeah, and get this, Maggie, 54% of Americans clean their plate. So here's a tip, here's some good news. Use a smaller plate and then portion it with about half vegetables, because vegetables are so healthy, low in calories, and then a little bit protein and a little bit starch, and get rid of those 12-inch plates. Nobody needs that.
Nobody needs that. And it's because of these larger portions that we have this epidemic of obesity in this country. And if we look back at the numbers 50 years ago, we see that it really has become a serious problem. Let's put up the statistic, the obesity statistic. Yeah,
this is really the most shocking trend. So today, 2/3 of American adults are either overweight or obese. So 1/3 of our country actually is obese. And this trend has been on the rise, especially from the 1980s. Get this, in 1980s, the average American gained 8 pounds. The average American, isn't that phenomenal?
That is not right.
High portion sizes, more calories obviously, and this is the result that we have.
Sodium intake has it, I imagine because there's so many preservatives in food that it has increased as well.
Yes, a lot of processed foods, also a lot of people eating out. In fact, 75% of the sodium we consume is from those processed foods and also restaurant foods. But again, there's a silver lining here, and that is, we know from at Cooking Light, we've done some surveys, more people are actually cooking at home. And so this way you can actually control what's in your food and reduce that sodium, which is less likely to lead to high blood pressure and heart disease.
So many problems. All right, let's talk about good fats versus bad fats.
Yes.
This is not what you want on your plate.
Right, interesting trend. So back in the 1950s, nobody really talked about saturated fat, mono and polyunsaturated fats. But again, we've learned a lot in the last 50 or 60 years. And we know that those foods high in saturated fat, like those fried foods, like we have an example here, not so good. But what you want to do instead is have those heart-healthy fats, things like the omega-3s that are in salmon, olive oil, canola oil. These are the fats that we want to have and that we can have, and they impart flavor. So about 30% of your total calorie intake should actually come from fat, but those good heart-healthy fats.
All right, and finally we can learn from foreign diets. A lot of good food in the Mediterranean and Japan.
Yes, actually, leading on from the fat discussion, we know that the Mediterranean diet is one of the healthiest eating patterns in the world. And the reason for that is they're using those heart-healthy olive oils. They're using lots of vegetables. This is a delicious, I mean, I saw them cooking this morning and I wanted to eat it all myself. It's a couscous with lots of vegetables, some wild mushrooms in there, a little bit of red wine. It's not a bad way to eat.
Perfect. Or a sushi dinner, which I can't have for another 5 months till the baby comes, but that's okay.
Soon.
Thank you, Katherine.
Thank
We
you.
want to remind all of you that you can read more about where America stands in USA Today, today's edition, and we will continue this series on CBSNews.com as well, and here on The Early Show in the CBS Evening News.